Okay, today we're going to learn how to do a watercolor resist. So what you need for that, you're going to do it with your name. This is what we're going to end up with. Okay, something like that. So to do that, you need a piece of paper. This one is 3 inches tall by 12 inches wide. It doesn't have to be that exactly, but something long and skinny. And I would recommend that everybody in the class has the same size, just to make it easy. Hopefully you can make that work. So what you first want to do is count out how many letters are in your name. So my Mrs. Toole has 8. So that means I need 8 squares. So that means I'm going to fold mine 3 times. But I think you can figure this out. So everybody, no matter how many they have, is going to start by folding in half. Okay. So this would only work if someone has 2 letters in their name. I doubt anybody has that. So then you fold it again. And this works for 4 letters, and that might work for somebody. Okay, or a 3-letter name, it would work for them. Okay, then you would fold it again. This works for my name because now I have 8 spots. You would fold it again if you have 9 or if you have 10. I would hope nobody would have an over 10. I think you have a lot of 5, 6, and 7s, maybe 8s. Okay, so this is like your graph to help you make your letters nice, okay? So I'm just going to start here with the first letter. I'm going to show you. So just like this one, okay, the letter, let's see if I can make you see this. Notice the letter M, it starts at the bottom and it touches at the top, okay, and it's really nice and thick, okay? Every letter starts at the bottom, touches at the top, okay? That's what we need to make sure happen. Okay, this is going to look upside down to you, sorry, but hopefully you can figure it out. So this is my M, okay? So, I just broke my crayon. I kind of color over my line pretty hard because we're making a watercolor resist. And in order for the crayon, which is wax, to resist the water, because wax and water do not mix, I have to have plenty of the wax on there. Now, I don't want to go crazy and slop it on. I want my letters to be nice and readable, but I do have to get it on there pretty thick. So there's the M, and then I go into my next square and make my R. And again, I am touching the top of the letter to the top, and I'm touching the bottom of the letter to the bottom. Okay, and that's really important because we're going to make designs in between and you won't know where to stop and start if you don't do that. So don't float your letters in the middle of your paper. Make them touch the top and the bottom. Okay, and really press hard on this. Okay, there's my misses. I'm going to pause. I think you got the idea, and I'll come back when I have it all set. Okay, so I have my letters in. Okay. Well, you can see that. I'll turn it around so you can see it. All right, and I do have some little black fuzzies, and so kind of blow those off. You don't want those on there. You can help it. So get those off. And then you're going to go back to your crayons, and you're going to choose some light colors. So things like yellows, oranges, whites, super bright yellowy greens, not your dark greens, but like a green like this will work. You can see that. Yellow, orange. Okay, white works really well. I have a really cool set, so I don't know if you'll have all these colors, but hopefully you'll have skin color like the peach color, the pink color works. Okay, colors like that. So you're going to choose light colors, and then you're going to make a pattern. Each individual shape on your picture has a pattern. So if you look at this one, like in between the letters of the R, that's its own pattern, okay? The blank space made between the lines of the M and the R is its own pattern. This inside the M is its own pattern. This has its own pattern. So each section is going to have its own pattern. And you have to press pretty hard. So I'm doing like in the middle of the R, I'm doing yellow, and I'm pressing pretty hard, doing yellow stripes. Okay. And then maybe between this next section here, I'll do polka dots. And it's best, it doesn't have to, but it's best if you try to use a different pattern in each section. It will look the coolest. The main thing is don't use the same pattern 2 times in a row. Like if I want to do stripes down here, that will look fine because I had stripes here, if I want to do them again here. And you can repeat the same color. So if I want to use this bright green again, that's fine, but don't use it again till way down here on the other end. So it really helps your different sections stand out. Okay, so I'm going to pause again and do all my sections, and then I'll show you where we're at. Okay, so I have a pattern between each letter, all in my light colors of crayons. I put them on pretty thick, okay? Even here, this one's a little hard to see, but it's pink. It's in there. Okay, I have that already. So now I have my watercolors here. Have some water. All right, get that all set up. Okay, and then I have my brush. Okay, so watercolors are a translucent paint, and they need to be used that way. So you have to use a lot of water with them. Like if I hardly use any water, just like this, and make this really thick, this isn't going to work as well because there's too much pigment and not enough paint. There's too much pigment, not enough water. And if there isn't enough water, the crayon won't resist the water. So see how dark that is? That's too dark. Okay, it doesn't have enough water in it. So for this to work, you have to make sure there's a lot of water. So I tap my water in a few times. So if I'm going to paint orange, I want it to be more like that. See how much more color I got in a stroke because of the water in there? And then as it dries, you can really see that that's going to be translucent, which means see-through. And this one over here, right there, is not. It doesn't get as light. It's dark, okay? So we want to use plenty of water. So really dip right there a few times. And then I want to use the orange with a color that I think will really show through. So I don't want to paint orange paint on one that I put a bright orange on. So I'm going to do this one on the yellow because that'll look pretty good. And I still need to stay within my lines, okay? But I don't have to be quite perfect because that watercolor that is going to not stick to that black wax. So I can go over that black just a little bit and not have to worry about that. Okay? So I'm painting my orange on here. Okay, and you can totally tell where I pressed better with my crayon and where I didn't by how much the paint sticks to it. So I definitely was more solid at the bottom with my yellow. Okay, you can see that, and be careful when you pick it up. See how it drips? So you don't really want to pick it up if you can help it. I just did that so it would show. Okay, then clean out your brush really well. Okay, if you touch it here on the lid and it puts down a color, it's not clean. Okay, and that may be because your water's too dirty. So you need to go dump out your water if it starts doing that, or just maybe you didn't clean it well enough in your brush. But when I put mine in here, nothing's coming off, so I'm good, and I can do my next color now. So I'm going to do a green, and again, I'm going to put a lot of water in there, okay, and I'm going to paint that on my orange here, because that'll look really good. That does look really good. That orange is really making that popping out of there. And see how this one's doing a really good job of resisting the watercolor. Okay. And I'm just doing just that shape. So every shape that I have a different pattern, I'm filling that in. Okay. So I'm going to keep painting just like this. Try if you, one thing that's hard about watercolors, because they're so wet, if you paint, like if I would go right here and paint wet right against this wet, it might bleed into it. So you probably want to wait till that one's dry. So jump around and never paint a wet color against a wet color. Okay, because then it'll bleed a little bit. So spread it out a little bit and then you won't have that trouble. Okay, so take your time. If you need to, you can use a blow dryer on these. I have a few you could borrow if you need a blow dryer. You can blow dry on these to help your go a little faster. But I found out with most kids, it's not helpful because they pick them up and then the colors run all over the place and whatever. So it's better usually just to let it sit and dry. So paint away. Okay, so I've painted every section, every shape between each letter, a different color. It's still kind of wet, but it'll dry even better. The colors will show even better. Okay, and then the one thing you'll notice is that it is a little bit wrinkly. Okay, so after it's completely dry, you can iron these. And if you iron them upside down. You'll lay them on a clean sheet of paper, something like this, white piece of paper or something, and lay them upside down and then iron them on low, and that'll smooth them right back out again. So they'll be ready to display. So if you need to borrow an iron, let me know. Hopefully you've got access to one. If not, Mrs. Ab has one, or I have one too, but you just do it on low, upside down on a white piece of paper, and then that is done and ready to put up. And this is a great project for the beginning of the year when you're learning all your kids' names and they're learning each other's names if you have new students and things like that. So that's a really good way to do this one. So good luck.